Hey, how's it going? This is Gabriel again, and I wanted to continue the topic of the difficulties that employers have finding talent or employees. And this is more so around my experience working with individuals that have been formerly incarcerated, experiencing homelessness, are in shelters, have been victims of domestic violence, previously abused drugs or alcohol. So a number of circumstances that have affected their employment and have taken them off of their path as far as and have made it difficult for them to stay employed. Now I came to this organization with a lot of experience working with employers and understanding to an extent what their hiring needs were and some of the challenges they were having. And I think what this organization is doing really does play a key factor for a lot of individuals that have a hard time re-entering the workforce, especially for those that have been previously incarcerated and they have a conviction in the background. And a lot of times employers do stay away from individuals with conviction in their background. And I think employers in general are starting to rethink those hiring practices, especially when we think about fair chance hiring, second chance hiring, the impact that that's having on individuals that are trying to essentially start a new life, especially if you've been incarcerated for a number of years, 5, 10 years, you're reentering sort of in quotes, normal society. What I think we don't realize, and something that I actually had to learn through this experience, was that many of those individuals that are incarcerated do have jobs and or are taking advantage of the education and training programs that are available to them, which is great because the number one, because I think the skill set building, as it relates to the video I spoke about my time being unemployed, is that skill set building will always be what helps you get to that next step. Whether you're unemployed or you're incarcerated, it's really invaluable. In many ways, it does not matter what stage of life you are in, whether employed or not, incarcerated or not. You can build skills in a number of areas, but more specifically in areas that you're looking to advance your career in, then I think that's always going to be a value add to you and those you're working alongside, and will make you a great employee or leader. In general, are just important, stepping stones to that next phase of your life. Now, those skills, you don't know exactly where they're going to lead you to, and the job experiences, you don't know where they're going to lead you to either. So all that kind of culminates to those individuals that are looking to re-enter the workforce and are trying to turn over a new leaf and start a new life. The challenges they have are insurmountable, especially because employers are looking at those background checks and are determining whether or not to hire this individual. So give you a kind of an overview of the work I did and what has led me to this perspective in regards to employers looking at, if you want to look at this way, non-traditional ways of sourcing talent. Because I think if employers can broaden their talent pipeline management, if you will, then they have a better chance of finding good people. And if you're looking at an individual, whether it's based on age, conviction, or even lack of experience, you're giving yourself less options. And especially if we're looking at someone who's been incarcerated, is looking to move on from their past, and has started to make the necessary changes in themselves and take those steps to be employable. A lot of these individuals would go through a number of classes as well as be connected to different training resources and other resources related to housing, mental health, clothing, you name it, all the different areas of their life that can become a stumbling block for them as they look to reenter the workforce. So really at the end of the day, what we're looking at is trying to help alleviate the burden that someone has, and that they are doing everything within their power to move through those barriers. Now, that's really key, and something that I mentioned previously is that the individuals that are looking to do the work will reap those benefits. And it's no different for someone that's looking to reenter the workforce. And many times what I notice is that those individuals were the most hardworking people that I've met. And I heard it directly from the employers. And their ability to stay employed was a lot higher than someone that was not incarcerated, which is maybe doesn't make the most sense or may sound contradictory, but you would hire them as dishwasher, have them work their way through that role and perhaps become a line cook, short order cook, so on and so forth, and kind of go down that path, right? And the biggest factor as far as working within the fair chance hiring or second chance hiring realm is that you do need to understand that a lot of times the individual, although may have previous work experience, will have their first job be entry level. Now they're going to work their way up because that's going to give them the best chance for them to work their way back up the corporate ladder, if you will, and get into those higher paying roles, because the work experience is going to be the biggest factor for them to be successful long term. If there's a gap in your work history, then it makes it more difficult for someone to hire this person. Just as I mentioned, as relates to unemployment, I was out of work for 5 months, and it wasn't getting any easier. Luckily for me, and again, the network was a big factor for me. And if you can imagine, many of those individuals do not have that network and don't have the connections necessary for them to find employment. Now, they may have a family member or friend that could, kind of vouch for them and help them find employment and get them that first job. Continue developing the skills and the consistency, developing that reliability for the employer to see that they hired somebody that they can invest in as well. So I think that's really a critical point as far as the employer is seeing that this individual is reliable, shows up on time, has a good attitude, and has all those soft skills that an employer is looking for. Because as I mentioned, a lot of employers are looking for those intangibles. The technical, the hard skills are something that can be learned on the job, and they see a long-term employee with you and they want to see you grow and succeed. And I think sometimes maybe employers have a bad rap, but we have to remember that there are individuals out there that are looking to help others grow and succeed. And if you're not in a work environment or a workplace that doesn't make that known to you, then I think perhaps there's a time there where you would want to move on. But overall, and generally speaking, employers do want to see you grow and succeed. Now, the biggest recommendation that I remember given to those individuals is, one, you do want to speak into the gap in your work history, but then you want to quickly focus onto what you've been doing since then. What courses have you been taking? What programs are you in? If you've worked any part time jobs, you really do want to shift the focus away from that gap, because you just don't want to dwell on that and have that be the main focus in your answer. Number two is, if there's ever a conversation, and hopefully there is a conversation with the potential employer and HR around the conviction, the best recommendation or advice that was given was to be honest and speak to, yes, I made a mistake, I was young, whatever the situation is for you, you want to speak to it. But again, you want to shift the focus to what have you been doing since then? What sort of classes have you been taking, etc. Because you really want to emphasize the fact that you are moving on from that decision. You're moving on from that past life. And I really do think that advice is applicable to most people. We are not our old selves. We've all done things that we regret. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things that we wish we can take back. Now, I think that honesty and being truthful and speaking to the advances that you've been making in yourself can really play a big factor for you when speaking to a potential employer that's on the fence about hiring you. And you really want to give them no room for doubt that you are a great addition to the team and will be reliable and all those great things around those intangibles and the soft skills that will make you a great employee. And you're not necessarily there to change their mind. You're there to convince them of the person that you are today sitting in front of them. And that's the person that they're hiring, not that person 10, 15, 20 years ago. You are no longer that person. You've gone through an evolution in your life and have decided that you are moving forward from that, just like we all have to do. Who I was in my 20s is not who I am in my 30s. And thank God, because I wasn't the best person in my 20s. And I may not be still the greatest person in my 30s, but working on that every single day. And I really do understand and empathize with someone that's been unemployed. As someone who's been unemployed like myself, the challenge and the difficulty of doing that on your own. And granted, I had a bachelor's, I had a support system, I had people that were by my side, I had a network of professionals that were reaching out and checking in. And a lot of times, people who have been previously incarcerated do not have those same luxuries, and it makes it that much more difficult. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for employers, and there's a lot of opportunity there for folks looking to reenter the workforce in a time where employers are having a hard time finding folks. There is untapped talent out there that is being missed, but thankfully there's a lot of efforts being put in by organizations and initiatives to shed light on the untapped talent that's out there. I don't know if enough is being done, but at the very least, there's a lot of effort being put into this. It will make an impact in the long term, because you do reduce the recidivism. I can't say that word, recidivism, because we know employment plays a huge factor in decreasing the recidivism rate. Apologies, I can't say this word correctly. Recidivism rate. Now, the reason why that's the case is because they're making because of the positive impact employment has on someone. It gives them confidence. It gives them something to look forward to. They're earning income. They're making their way in life. And there was an employer out there that was willing to, quote, willing to take a chance on them. And that's huge for someone's confidence and positive outlook on life because they know there's light at the end of the tunnel, that because they know those barriers are now behind them. And I think that's huge for someone. And I really do think that that time spent at this organization really did open my eyes to the realities that many of these individuals face because I talked to many employers and worked with them and provided the support necessary for these individuals to be as successful as possible. Now, what's great about what the organization did was they provided resume training and practice interview skills and soft skills training. In addition to that, they provided employment opportunities, what they would call transitional employment, where there was a number of opportunities for them to earn income and be supported while within the program and these different transitional employment opportunities. And then that was a great stepping stone towards permanent employment with the employers that were working alongside the organization and providing, at the very least, an opportunity to apply and interview for a job. And what I would do is get that feedback from the employer, from the HR manager, and understand what they did well and what they can improve on, because that is a big area of need, especially for those of us that may not have ever gotten feedback from an interview, because that's not normal. And it was just a huge plus for these individuals because they can go into the next interview, assuming they didn't get that job, they can go into the next interview knowing what they can work on and what they did well. And in addition to that, they had case managers that were checking in on them, making sure that they had transportation taken care of and they had the proper interview attire. They had whatever resources that could be provided to ensure that they were going to be successful in that interview and moving forward if they were hired onto that job. And to summarize my thoughts on this, the and to summarize my thoughts on this, and I'll speak to those job seekers that can identify with, and I'm speaking to those job seekers that are in the, and I'm speaking to those job seekers that have been previously incarcerated or have a background, have a conviction in their background. There is light at the end of the tunnel. There are organizations out there that are doing the work necessary to provide the support for you and get you connected to opportunities and resources for you to be successful in the long, and resources for you to be successful. If interested, I'm happy to share. Oh, I don't even know. No, no, no. And now to the employers that are having a hard time finding good people, you got to look at and widen your time and widen your options here. And now I'm speaking to the employers. You really want to widen your options and look beyond your sort of typical uh, look beyond sort of your typical sourcing options and think and understand that there are many individuals out there that are having a hard time finding employment. So this is a good opportunity for you to be able to find those individuals and give them those opportunities that may not have been there otherwise.